Sometimes I feel like I'm just ranting on these videos. Hey guys, it's Tanya and I am here to do a Let's Talk adoption chat. I hadn't been feeling well, and so this is the cure. Orange juice, right? And just a little bit of champagne. So if you guys are new here, November is Adoption Awareness Month, and all this month I have been talking and chatting about adoption and just sharing our process and other thoughts on adoption. So if you're interested in adoption and chatting about it, keep on watching. If you have been along for this journey during the month of November, then welcome back and thanks for hanging out with me this month. And grab your drink and let's talk adoption. Alright guys, so Thanksgiving just passed, which is exactly why I did not do a video prior, because if you watched my other video, I talked about the lack of support that we have. So Thanksgiving is all on me. We don't travel anywhere, although I would love to start traveling for Thanksgiving, just our little family or big family or whatever, traveling somewhere for Thanksgiving. But we don't travel to a family member's house. Nobody, you know, comes and cooks for us or anything like that. I am the sole person that does that. So but it's over. We survived. We had a great time. Check out our little kids chopped that I posted from our pre-Thanksgiving fun if you have not seen that video. But anyway, I want to talk about the idea of adoptive kids being thankful, and I want to talk about bonding in this video. So this video will be about being thankful and bonding with your adoptive child. So one of the things that we get a lot when people find out we have adopted kids is, oh my gosh, those kids should be so thankful, and you know, how lucky for them, and they should be so grateful. And I know a lot of times people are saying that from the standpoint because they're thinking like, you know, you've rescued them or you've provided them with something that they may otherwise have not had. And so it's usually coming from a healthy place that they're saying it. But I think that thought of, you know, the adoptive child should be thankful hinders bonding with that child. When you come from the standpoint, or when you're thinking like, you should be thankful that I adopted you, I did not have to adopt you, because you didn't have to adopt. So if you are in a place of, you know, this child should be thankful, or I am going to give this child a wonderful life and they're going to be so happy and they're going to be so grateful that I swooped in and I saved them from whatever other life they could have had, that thought process could definitely hinder the bonding process. And the reason why is because children aren't thankful for being born or being rescued, so to speak. Like, that's just not how kids operate. My biological children don't say, I'm so thankful that you gave birth to me and didn't abort me. Like, they don't, that's not how they operate. And so your adoptive child is not going to be like, I'm so thankful that you adopted me and I'm not on the street. Like, their brains are not programmed that way. And I don't really think any person thinks like that until maybe, you know, in your adulthood, if you're reflecting on something and you're like, oh, I'm so grateful that my life went in that direction. And so because the child doesn't think that way, they are going to rebel. They're going to act out. They are going to do many of the same things, and sometimes a lot of things that your biological child would do or would not do. And so if we are operating from the standpoint of you should be thankful, and then this child acts out, or they're not thankful, or they are very rebellious, or don't want to be in your household, then that is going to hinder the bonding process. I'll give an example in our situation. Our daughter, who was 11 when she came home, she didn't ask to be adopted. I mean, in fact, she thought that she was going to be reunified with her birth mother. And so when she found out that wasn't happening, there was a lot of big emotions, rightfully so. So not one time was she, you know, begging to be adopted. And if you heard the story of how she came home, that all in itself was a lot of emotions for her. And so there were times where she would act out, and I could have went from the standpoint of, and there were times, guys, if I'm being 100% honest, where I thought in my brain, or I had conversation with my husband where I'm like, you know, we fought for her. We fought for her, because we did. Again, if you saw our previous stories, I talked about the kind of battles and uphills that we had to go through. And so in my mind, I'm like, I literally fought for you. Like, I fought for you. I wanted you. The same way I could say for my biological child. You know, I prayed for you. We tried for you. The same exact thing. And so the next thing could have been, you need to be grateful. Like, I didn't have to do that. I could have just walked away and you not got adopted, right? That could have been the next thought or the mindset. Well, if that would have happened, then trying to bond with her or see through the rebellion, or be able to see why she was acting out, or go deeper, then that would have been hindered. Because if you're feeling like a person should be grateful for something you're giving them and they're not being, then you feel like they're selfish and ungrateful, and how dare they. So your heart begins to close off, and you begin to kind of shun away from that person, and then begin to hold back giving more, because they're not going to be grateful for it anyway. So why give more? So why give more love? Why continue to give to this child who clearly does not want it, who clearly is rebelling against it? And so that becomes the thought process, and again pushes that bonding way away. So with adopted children, you have to think about it the same way I said earlier with biological children. They did not ask to be here. And so it is a standpoint of, they didn't ask to be here, so they're going to act out. And not act out necessarily because they didn't ask to be here, but because that is what kids do, especially when they have these big emotions without the words to express those big emotions. So we have to remember that, and we have to be able to push through that. So whenever she would push back, or would rebel, or would act out, my question would be, what's going on for you right now? Like, what is going on for you right now? What are you feeling? Are you feeling angry, or are you feeling sad? Because if you're feeling angry, there's an underlying issue to why you're feeling angry. And by doing that can create bonding. When she came home, she had some tennis shoes, but then she started running. She liked to run with my husband. So we took her to Fleet Feet and bought her like customized shoes to her feet for running, and spent tons of money. Like, she had the most expensive shoes in our house, and she was running. And then we found that she stopped wearing the tennis shoes we bought and started wearing her other tennis shoes that she came home with. And we're like, you need to wear, you know, you need to wear these more so because they were customized for your feet and for running, so that your feet don't hurt. And then, so because we were like, you need to wear the shoes, and kind of pushing it, then she started rebelling, and I don't want to run. We had paid for her to take these classes. I'm not going, I don't want to go. And just kind of, you know, having this attitude about it, and just really getting upset. Like, there was this huge thing, and then it was, oh, I lost the shoes, oh, I don't know where I did with the shoes, or I don't like them, I don't like the color, or they don't look right, or it just anything. And so we could have came from the standpoint like, really you should be grateful that we got you these shoes, right? But instead of going in the direction, it was, okay, what is going on for you right now? Like, what is happening with these shoes? And the underlying thing was, well, these shoes are like the last thing that I have from my past, and I feel like you guys are just trying to strip everything away from me, because this is all I have. These are the shoes I had on my feet. Because we had to fight, you guys. We had to fight with the foster family to get their things, like all of their things, their clothing and things like that, sent to us. So it was like, this is all I have left, and you guys are trying to take that away from me. So it was more so a fear of losing, you know, a part of something. Like, this is all I have. So that became a bonding moment for us, because we were able to talk through that. You know, I was able to explain to her, we're not trying to take those away from you, sweetie. You can wear those with your jeans or your sweatpants. You can wear them whenever you want to wear them. You know, these shoes are designed for running and comfort, and these shoes are for style. And just really explaining to her what that was about. And then for my you know, a time for my husband to come in and explain to her about running shoes versus, you know, tennis shoes and all of those things, and to show her, I have these shoes for running, I have these shoes to wear out, and that kind of thing. And that became a bonding moment for us, rather than what could have been like a huge wedge, a huge gap, if we would have had that thought process of, you need to be thankful. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that I'm explaining this whole being thankful and bonding correlation in a way that kind of makes sense. So the idea behind this is, you don't ever want to go into a situation, especially with adoptive children, thinking they need to be thankful or they need to be grateful, the same way that you might find, or the same way you might think with your biological child. You know, our biological children, we may say you need to be grateful, or you need to have a happy heart, because your life could be so different. So we might say that to them, but that's not something that we can say to our adoptive children, because their life is different. It is so very different, if that makes sense. Like, their life is already different. They, especially for older children, you know, this, again, we have adopted older children, so my life is already different. My life has already been flipped upside down. What are you talking about? So to say that to them could create such a huge wedge. And I think even sometime with our biological children, I have to remind myself that they aren't going to always be grateful or thankful for things that they should be, because they just don't get it. I mean, they don't understand it. Their brains are not mature enough to understand it. And sometimes when I'm wanting them to be grateful or thankful for something, it can create a wedge between us, you know, mother and daughter, or mother and son. So the idea of, you know, being thankful or being grateful with children may look a little different than what it looks like for an adult or an older child, a teenager, a biological child versus an adoptive child. Those type of things that we have to consider. I hope that this makes sense. Sometimes I feel like I'm just ranting on these videos and it's not all coming together, and I want it to all come together. Like, I want this to be helpful for you guys, and I want it to be like a aha, I get that, I understand that, that makes so much sense video. So I hope that I was able to do that with this video. So as we kind of continue through this season of, you know, thanks, because I think Thanksgiving kind of kicks off the season of just being thankful and nostalgia and just being, you know, in that whole family mode. I think it's so important to remember that children aren't going to operate the same way as adults. So, especially if you have an adoptive child. That's all I have for you for this video, which I think it is already long enough. If you guys have any questions about this video or just any questions in general about adoption, please leave them below. We have a few more days left in November, so I will be closing out these adoption talks over the next couple days. So if you have any burning questions, I know I talked before about questions that people ask, and you know, if that is deterring you from asking a question, please don't let that deter you from asking a question, because I feel like a lot of times people have questions and they're coming from a really good place. They just don't have a safe place to ask them, or what's the appropriate way to ask a question for the answer they're trying to get. I hope I explained that correctly as well. So if you have a burning question, feel free to either leave that below, or you can email me or DM me on Instagram, or whatever the case may be, and I will make sure that I answer that in my last Let's Talk chat video. If you guys have not already subscribed and became part of the non-traditional family, what are you waiting for? Go watch some more videos and see if you want to join this crazy family. Then hit that red button. I would love to have you guys. If you are already part of the family, then you already know you are the MVP. And I love you, and I will see you in the next one.